Welcome to the Man-to-Man Coverage Sports Show, and I am your host, Suraj Zaveri. Today we have a special show for you guys. As you can see, I am coming to you live from the 2020 NFL Draft, and no other show has been given this privilege, actually, which goes to speak for the level of respect that we here at M2M have in the industry. Now, as always, I am joined by Kevin Kim, who's coming to you live from the College Football National Championship, and Geoffrey Aji, who is coming to you live from his house. Today, we're going to be finishing up our discussion of the NFL Draft, and then we'll look at some of the more recent moves that have been made by some particular NFL teams and how that might affect some of the different power dynamics in the different divisions this year. So my first question for you guys is, what teams elevated themselves the most in this draft as a whole?
Well, definitely not the Green Bay Packers. And let's go back to that, because in the last episode we talked about Geoffrey talked about how his biggest winner was the Green Bay Packers and with their pick with Jordan Love. Well, let's look at the rest of their draft. The next pick was a running back. So let's look at the Packers roster. Two of their biggest needs were not quarterback and running back. They already have Aaron Rodgers. They already have Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams in the backfield, two very capable and good running backs. So why do you go out there and get Dillon, running back, and then the tight end? Like, they drafted a quarterback, running back, and tight end. Like, how are you supposed to help a 13-3 team who is one game away from the Super Bowl, who still has Aaron Rodgers as quarterback, and not give him skill players like at wide receiver or improve the defense? Like, how is this plausible? And I think Green Bay Packers really just screwed up. They just told Aaron Rodgers, screw you, basically.
Yeah, I agree. As Mr. said, like their first pick in Jordan Love, I'm astounded by the fact that they didn't get a wide receiver at all in the draft. It's crazy because they need a second wide receiver. Their second wide receiver right now is Valdez Scantling, and they got a running back instead when they had Aaron Jones, who had an amazing season last year, and they also had Jamal Williams, who's also a really good running back. So I have no idea why they didn't draft a wide receiver in the second, third, or even the fourth to seventh rounds. It's crazy to me.
And just going back to what Serge asked about the biggest improvements, I think that goes to the Cincinnati Bengals or the Baltimore Ravens. You look at the Bengals, they got Joe Burrow, so they got a franchise quarterback. And then they got T. Higgins in the second round, first-round talent, basically a first-round pick. So they even improve on the offensive weapons to give Joe Burrow. Then they got some defensive weapons. They got two new linebackers, an edge rusher, and an offensive lineman. I think overall they're just building up a team that can put Joe Burrow in a position to succeed. In the Baltimore Ravens, they had steals. They had Patrick Queen with the 28th pick. And then they got J.K. Dobbins to add to that already potent run offense. This Baltimore Ravens team, just look out for them because, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, they're going to have a rivalry for the next decade.
I love what the Ravens did. I think the Bengals should have drafted an O-lineman in the second round. But one of my biggest winners was the Cleveland Browns. They made a great addition at tackle. Cedric Willis is a beast from Alabama. And they also got Grant Delpit in the second round, who many people had him going as a top 10 player last year. And now they have a great secondary, a pretty good defensive line, a great wide receiver. And if Baker Mayfield can step up, they're going to be a team to watch next year.
Yeah, both of those are valid, favorite best elevation of teams for the draft. I'm looking at the Los Angeles Chargers. I think they had a pretty solid draft. They got their quarterback that they wanted, Justin Herbert. They got Kenneth Murray, who we thought might have gone to the Saints possibly. And then they also solidified the rest of their backup positions with Joshua Kelly, running back from UCLA, Joe Reed, wide receiver. So this team is also pretty stacked all around, and I think they're a contender in the AFC West.
Yeah, and actually, one thing to note, the Chargers GM actually said that if Herbert was going to be picked by the Dolphins, he would have went with Tua. So they were happy with either quarterback. So at this point, like the Chargers were already set on getting a franchise quarterback, but they're not putting him in a position to rush onto the field. They got a great situation. I think Chargers had one of the most complete rosters in the AFC West. And yeah, Philip Rivers left, but it's not like they're completely rebuilding. They got Kenneth Murray, that's an absolute steal of a pick. They did have to give up a lot, but that Chargers team, like, you don't have one glaring hole anywhere on that roster.
And the Chiefs are in a tough division now. The Broncos massively improved. The Chargers massively improved. And the Raiders are about the same, but it's a much better division compared to last year.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to do the dirty work in the division, win those divisional games, and none of those divisional games will be like set in stone for sure, because like you said, I think the Raiders improved also. So give some credit to the Raiders in this draft. They got a Henry Ruggs. They got some they have talent around that team, around Derek Carr. We saw Derek Carr a couple of seasons ago play like an MVP caliber player. So if these quarterbacks, Justin Herbert or Tyrod Taylor for the Chargers, Derek Carr and Drew Lock, if these it comes down to quarterback play really, because Patrick Mahomes is clearly the best quarterback in the NFL right now, I'd say. And if these quarterbacks can just help their teams in the AFC West, then we're looking at some really complete rosters all around and a very strong division. All right, let's talk about another very strong division, the NFC South. We didn't get to talk about some of the moves that went by with the NFC South, particularly in Tampa and New Orleans, which are the two teams that might be at the top of the division right now. First, we had Gronk getting traded from the Patriots to the Buccaneers. He joins his best friend Tom Brady in Tampa. What does that do for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and how do they stack up against the Saints now with Gronk as an extra weapon?
It depends on what Gronk they get. The Gronk that was in his final year before he retired, he wasn't that great. He wasn't the same player that he used to be the years before. So if the Gronk, if it was an injury that stopped him from being a great tight end like he was, then he's going to be good next year. But I also like O.J. Howard. I think if they trade O.J. Howard because they have Gronk, I think they make a big mistake because O.J. Howard is a great tight end. So if they have both tight ends in the backfield, it's going to be a problem.
And don't forget about Cameron Brate. But looking at these moves, again, that's sexy for Tampa Bay. But I still see New Orleans as the favorite in the NFC South. And I actually looked at the Patriots, and I think Bill Belichick is one hell of a genius because he basically got compensation for a retired player, shipped him to Tampa Bay, and look at Bruce Arians' offense in the past. Bruce Arians' offense are built so that they do a lot of risk-heavy plays. They had the most turnover-worthy plays last year with Jameis Winston, but you might say it's because of Jameis Winston, but actually no. Bruce Arians did that with Carson Palmer and Andrew Luck, two good quarterbacks. And I don't see this offense. Everyone says it's going to be super potent, but at the end of the day, Tom Brady is a different type of quarterback than Jameis Winston. Bruce Arians is going to have to change that offense. They can't just do 50-yard bombs every single time. I'm going to see a lot of production drop-off from Mike Evans because Mike Evans thrives on the deep balls. I don't see Brady throwing as many deep balls as Jameis Winston. So, yeah, it's a great pickup for the Bucs, but I don't see them beating the Saints.
I don't see them beating the Saints either, but I think they're going to be a good team next year. I feel like they're going to be a 10-win team. They're probably going to get a playoff spot. And, even though Tom Brady wasn't great last year, it's mainly because he didn't have any weapons. His only weapon was Julian Edelman. N'Keal Harry was on injured reserve, and he lost Gronk too. But now, if you look at his weapons in Tampa Bay, they're much better than what they are in New England. So I feel like Tom Brady's going to have a good season this year, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be a playoff team.
You know, it's funny to hear this from the guy who criticized Brady all of last year, saying he was washed up and that he no longer is effective in the NFL.
I didn't do that. That's a bunch of lies.
You said the Jets were the AFC East favorites because Brady and the Pats are going to be bad again, right?
Yes, I forgot about that. Never mind.
Now you're praising this man. Okay.
Yeah, so the way I see it, I see it as a complete toss-up between the Saints and the Bucs. And the reason I see it like this is because I'm assuming that Tom Brady and Gronk still have their chemistry. And I think Gronk is not going to be that what we saw him in the past as a Patriot, but he's definitely going to be a red zone threat. You know, he's still a mismatch nightmare. Safeties can't cover him. Linebackers can't cover him. So in the red zone, I think Gronk is very useful and can get a lot of touchdowns. And like you said before, they have O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate, which can shoulder the load of these down the field plays. And then Tom Brady, with regards to throwing the deep ball, I don't think he necessarily needs to throw the deep ball that much for them to have a successful offense. I think Bruce Arians will adjust to what Tom Brady needs, similar to what we kind of saw Matt LaFleur adjust to like Aaron Rodgers, and how Aaron Rodgers is commanding the offense just as much as Matt LaFleur is. I think Tom Brady is going to be an important element in determining what the offense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looks like. And so on paper, the Buccaneers, like everyone's saying, they're very stacked on paper. And I think it has the potential to translate to reality, which is why I guess as a Saints fan, I'm a bit concerned because I don't know if we might split the divisional games, right? I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't get me wrong. I think the Bucs are a good team. And you know, they probably are a playoff team next year. And actually, I'm very concerned with Gronk because if you look at Dennis Allen, for some reason, the defensive coordinator of the Saints believes that putting small guys on big guys works. We saw in the 49ers
Williams
game,
on Kyle Rudolph.
Exactly. Like, how do you put Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on George Kittle, and then after you saw that mistake, you put P.J. Williams on Kyle Rudolph one-on-one? Like, even when I was watching it on my TV screen, I was screaming timeout because I was like, that is the mismatch. The game is over. Call it a damn timeout. He didn't, and we lost. So, you know, if we can't find a good matchup for Gronk, I mean, it's going to be tough covering him. But, you know, I have faith because, with the addition of Malcolm Jenkins, he's a true leader, and he leads in communication. That's one big thing. So it's going to be exciting. Sean Payton said he wants a home and away split on Sunday Night Football between the Saints and Buccaneers. And honestly, the NFL should do that because Brady versus Breeze, you got to enjoy what we have right now because we're not gonna have any of that for a long time.
Yeah, and I guess the other two teams in the division, like, let's not forget them. Let's just mention them and their elevations that they've had. The Panthers with Teddy Bridgewater and Christian McCaffrey. We're not expecting them to beat the Saints or the Bucs in the race for the division, but I can see them stealing a game here or there. Same with the Falcons. The Falcons' offense is very strong, very well-rounded. They have a very deep wide receiving core. And Todd Gurley, we do not know how he will look, but if they have a running attack, that offense will be deadly.
Yeah, if Todd Gurley is back to what he was, then it's going to be scary. The Falcons are going to be a good team.
Yeah, and I think the Atlanta Falcons offense is composed of first-round picks. And, even though they added Laquan Treadwell, who was deemed a bust. I mean, a new culture, new system might revitalize that career. The wide receiver trio of Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Laquan Treadwell, that looks dangerous. Even if Todd Gurley isn't himself fully, if he even shows a part of himself, that's going to be very, very dangerous. Matt Ryan is good, but look at the Falcons. They were mostly injured all of last year, and look what they did in the second half of that season. They looked like one of the best teams in the NFL. That pass rush was nasty. They lost Desmond Trufant, but they added Terrell in the draft, even though they may have reached for him. That's still a good addition to that secondary. And then a lot of people discount the Panthers, but I still think they're a pretty good team. They got Christian McCaffrey anchoring that offense. With an offense led by Joe Brady, that could look dangerous. So we'll see. Because Teddy Bridgewater, he's used to that system. Brady was from the Saints before he went to LSU, so it'll be a very easy transition for him.
And the Panthers also added a bunch of defensive pieces in the draft. Every single pick was a defensive player. I feel like the defense isn't going to be great, but it can be a good, solid defense.
Speaking of Teddy Bridgewater, you reminded me of backups in New Orleans. And today, Jameis Winston officially signed his contract in New Orleans, a 1-year deal. And so I just wanted to get your guys' reactions to this. What does Jameis Winston do for this offense? I know the Saints drafted a quarterback in Tommy Stevens. And so I don't know what Jameis Winston is going to be the backup in New Orleans, it looks like. Or there's going to be some kind of competition between him and Taysom Hill. Can the Saints turn Jameis's career around?
If the Saints win the Super Bowl this year, Jameis Winston's probably going to be a quarterback for the next few years because Reese is definitely going to retire if you win. And I hear all these rumors about how the Saints think that Taysom Hill is their franchise quarterback. But if he is, why don't you trust him with the backup quarterback job? They trusted Teddy Bridgewater last year. They didn't give Taysom Hill any starting quarterback time. And now when Teddy Bridgewater is gone and when Taysom Hill could be their backup quarterback and get some experience, they pick up Jameis Winston. So Taysom Hill is probably just going to be a quarterback that he's going to do what he does every single year, which is be a wide receiver, running back, whatever Sean Payton asks him to do.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Geoffrey, but the reason why Taysom Hill wasn't put in at QB2 was because he's just so much more valuable in the roles he's in. He's playing 5 different, positions basically, and he's only one player on the roster. And I love this move by the Saints to get Jameis Winston. And let me tell you why. So Jameis Winston, let's not forget, yes, he had 30 interceptions, but he threw for over 5,100 yards and 33 touchdowns. Right? That's not something you can just disregard just because of his interception numbers. And his interception numbers, again, that has to do with Bruce Arians leading an offense that does a lot of turnover-worthy plays. Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael do not run that type of offense. We do not run that type of offense. Saints have consistently year after year one of the least amount of turnovers in the league. And is Sean Payton and Drew Brees' guidance, Jameis Winston can clean up his mechanics and clean up all those mistakes. Let's not forget he had eye surgery, so he will fix that short-sightedness. Hey, and you laugh, but that's actually pretty important because he was playing short-sighted the entire year last year. And spending a year under Drew Brees, that's just so valuable for your career in terms of how you can shape your career for the future. And I think this was a humble move by Jameis Winston. He turned down higher offers by Pittsburgh Steelers because who knows? I doubt Ben Roethlisberger's going to play all year. He's always injured. So Jameis Winston just gets thrown on the field. He's going to keep making those mistakes. That doesn't help his future career. So he goes to New Orleans, takes a year behind Drew Brees and Sean Payton, perhaps the best offensive minds in this league. This is Jameis's making a move for the future of his career. He might not be the franchise quarterback for the Saints, but he definitely is going to be a franchise quarterback for someone in the future.
Yeah, and it's definitely a testament to the culture that QBs have in New Orleans. The work ethic you see when you get to watch Drew Brees every day go in early in the mornings and put in the work, put in what it takes to get to the championship level. Teddy Bridgewater gave so many insights into that with some of his comments about what it was like being the backup in New Orleans. And we can definitely see that landed him into a better position later on. So Jameis Winston, for his career, like you said, it's going to be great for his career. He's going to significantly improve. And I think the main thing for him is decision making. It's just the interceptions might not be a result of his own decision making, all of them, because of Bruce Arians' offense. But if he can correct that decision making and limit the turnovers, then his potential is almost limitless. Like, he can be a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, and let's not forget that with the addition of Jameis Winston, this enables Taysom Hill to continue his role as a gadget player because they don't have to worry about if Breeze goes down, they'll only be left with one quarterback because they have Winston now. And just to comment on their drafting of Tommy Stevens resembles Taysom Hill's play. He's no Taysom Hill, but he resembles that type of play, and that's why he got drafted in front of other quarterbacks that are projected to be better. And, there's no guarantee that Tommy Stevens will make the roster, but he might even be a practice squad guy, but that just brings another valuable aspect. So let's say Winston does not stay with the Saints in the future. Taysom Hill is elevated to starting quarterback. Then you have another Taysom Hill and Tommy Stevens to continue that gadget role while you have Taysom Hill himself playing starting quarterback. So, I know a lot of people will say Taysom Hill does not look like a starting quarterback, but I have a lot of faith in Sean Payton. And if Sean Payton believes he's a starting quarterback, then I believe he's a starting quarterback.
Well, when you put it like that, then I see the rationale for drafting Tommy Stevens. But my initial reaction to it was, if the next day the Saints were going to sign Jameis Winston, then what was the point of drafting Tommy Stevens? Because you could possibly get some other position or some other depth at a different position rather than get someone like Tommy Stevens, who might not make the team this year, who likely won't make the team this year.
And speaking of the Saints draft, I want to send a message to Who Dat Nation. Stop crying. Stop whining. We got a linebacker, and we got a good one. So stop crying at Cesar Ruiz. Welcome him to the city of New Orleans like you welcome everyone else. Remember how we booed Ryan Ramczyk? Look what he's doing for us now. So do not boo that man, Cesar Ruiz, because he's going to do wonders for the interior for the Saints this year. And we got a linebacker. I hope everyone's happy.
His sack bond was a steal in the third round. He was projected to go somewhere in the late fourth round or the second round, and I feel like he's going to be a great piece to the Saints defense.
Definitely. Let's move on to the San Francisco 49ers. They made a couple moves. They traded for Trent Williams because Joe Staley was retiring. And they also got rid of Marquise Goodwin. But they had an overall solid draft, I would say. And they really bolstered some of those positions that they needed to, with Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver and Javon Kinlaw at defensive tackle. So can the 49ers keep up their hold of the NFC with these additions?
I still see the Seahawks winning the division just because of Russell Wilson. No, every single year we doubt the Seahawks, but Russell Wilson always makes them great, and they're always the playoff team. And if you look at last year, they should have won the division, but a few plays at the end screwed them over, and because of that, the 49ers won the division. So, even though I love the moves that they made, I like Trent Williams, I like Brandon Ayuk, but I still – and Seahawks had a horrible draft, by the way. I don't like any of the players they drafted, but I still think that Seahawks are going to be elevated by Russell Wilson, and they're going to win the division this year.
Time out. you have been the biggest doubter of the San Francisco 49ers. And remember, 2 years ago, so the season before, they made it to the Super Bowl, right? I remember sitting in the computer lab with you comparing the rosters of the 49ers and the Rams. And I told you that this young roster has promise. And you said the 49ers are garbage. Well, just a year later, they went from the gutter to the Super Bowl. And one big key is because they have such a great defense, but also Jimmy Garoppolo. And let me comment on the Seahawks. You have too much faith in Russell Wilson, right? The 49ers only improved with this draft. They probably had a very solid draft. I'll give them like a B+ or an A. The Seahawks, the opposite. So basically, you just said the Seahawks had a terrible draft, but now you're projecting them to win the NFC West when this Super Bowl, the reigning NFC champions, only improved their roster? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I just think that I don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo, first of all. Even John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, even they don't trust him because John Lynch looked for a quarterback in Tom Brady in free agency instead of just keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. He said he had some interest in Tom Brady. And Kyle Shanahan, he during the playoffs, he made most of the carries from the running back. Jimmy Garoppolo had like 8 throws in one of the games. And the Super Bowl second half, before the second half, they just QB kneeled and they ran out the rest of the time instead of maybe looking for another throw or trying to get another touchdown. So I think the 49ers don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think he's a great quarterback personally. I don't think he's going to be much better. But Russell Wilson, he just keeps improving every single year. He keeps getting better, and he's gonna be like an MVP caliber player again. And because of that, the Seahawks are going to be good.
Time out. You just said as evidence that the 49ers don't trust Garoppolo, that they were interested in Tom Brady. Did you know that the Saints were interested in Tom Brady? Every single team in the NFL was interested in Tom Brady.
Who said that?
He is the GOAT.
No.
If you're the greatest quarterback of all time as a free agent, of course you're going to be interested. Of course.
No, John Lynch himself said that. You can just say that the Saints were interested in him, but there weren't any actual reports from reliable people about them trying to get Tom Brady.
Every team in the NFL had some level of interest because the greatest quarterback of all time with 6 Super Bowl rings was on the open market. You can't just say they don't have faith in their own quarterback when they were interested in the greatest quarterback of all time.
The greatest quarterback of all time was also 42 years old when they had a 25-year-old quarterback. And it wasn't like there was a lot of interest in Tom Brady.
But you just a few minutes ago you were praising the Buccaneers and saying that they're going to be a great team when they literally just did the same thing by replacing a young quarterback with a 42-year-old quarterback.
No, this is a good short-term move. They're trying to win the Super Bowl right now. They're probably not going to win the Super Bowl with Jameis Winston, but they're definitely going to win the Super Bowl with Tom Brady.
Definitely.
Not definitely. I mean, definitely.
Definitely going to win the Super Bowl. Is that your Super Bowl pick for this year?
Yeah, they're Super Bowl contenders this year.
Yeah. The 49ers aren't. The 49ers aren't?
49ers, they aren't because of Jimmy Garoppolo.
They're
with Jimmy Garoppolo, they made the Super Bowl.
Jimmy Garoppolo had nothing to do with that Super Bowl.
Did you see Jimmy Garoppolo play against the Saints?
I saw Jimmy Garoppolo overthrow Emmanuel Sanders a bunch of times.
48.
Did you see that game?
Yeah, because he throws 6 yards to his wide receivers, and his wide receivers gets another 20
Are you kidding
yards.
me? Do you forget the bomb he threw to Emmanuel Sanders?
That was one play.
It was actually more than that.
The entire game off one play. Look at the last.
It's actually more than that. He threw intermediate routes to George Kittle. He threw deep to Emmanuel Sanders.
All of them were wide open. It's either all the wide receivers are wide open, or it's just short passes because of Kyle Shanahan.
That's a discredit.
That's discrediting. But also, if you're the quarterback, aren't you supposed to look for open receivers?
No, they're open now because Jimmy Garoppolo can make them open, Kyle Shanahan schemes make the receivers open. That's why.
So basically,
so
you're
easy.
discrediting the quarterback because the head coach is making good moves.
No, I mean, I feel like if Jimmy Garoppolo was put in a place where he had to carry a team, he wouldn't be known as what people
I
think
just think
he
you're a
is.
hater. I
No
just
one
think
knew
you're a
people-
hater.
I think there's evidence of Jimmy Garoppolo carrying his team on occasions, just from this past season. Against the Cardinals I think both games against the Cardinals, both games were close, and third down after third down after third down, you see Jimmy G making accurate throws to receivers who are covered. Like these are shorter routes, but Jimmy G stands in the pocket and he can make the throws when he needs to. So
Cardinals
it's
are
definitely not just Kyle Shanahan, just this running attack. Jimmy G is definitely doing things to elevate his team. So I also don't see what you're saying with Jimmy G being a bust or like not a good quarterback.
Cardinals are a 5-win team last year. You can just say, "Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo basically carried that team because they weren't a good team last year."
Wait. So let's not forget, Drew Brees and Tom Brady also throws a lot of short passes. Drew Brees' most common throw is a slant to Michael Thomas.
And
you're
Drew
gonna
Brees
say
has proven himself. Drew Brees has proven himself before, like
and Jimmy Garoppolo is a
before
Super
this.
Bowl quarterback.
First of all, Drew Brees and Tom Brady are old. Jimmy Garoppolo is young. When Drew Brees and Brady were around Jimmy Garoppolo's age, they made good throws. They were good quarterbacks. It wasn't like Tom Brady and Drew Brees just threw slants every single year of their career.
Look, it's the way that the offense is designed. All right, Kyle Shanahan knows his strengths. Like I said in earlier videos, they have the highest paid running back group in the NFL. You've got to utilize that.
All right. Well, we definitely have to get to commercial break. No, I'm just kidding. We just want to wrap up this discussion because I think we lost a little bit of like our main topic, which is the 49ers. And we got into like Jimmy Garoppolo, which is great. But let's finish up this discussion with talking about the New England Patriots. They did not draft a quarterback. They signed an undrafted free agent today, Brian Lewerke, or whatever his name is. I don't know what the Patriots are doing, but I just can't count them out because Bill Belichick seems to know what he's doing.
I'm more surprised that the Patriots didn't draft a wide receiver, a tight end, or any skill players when one of the reasons that Tom Brady left last year was because he didn't have any weapons. They have Julian Edelman left, but he's old. I mean, the reason Bill Belichick did that might be because he trusts N'Keal Harry, but he was injured most of the season, and even when he played last year, he really wasn't that good. And they don't really have tight end in their roster or anyone near Gronk. I feel like Patriots have a plan. They're probably going to get a quarterback in next year's draft, or maybe Bill Belichick trusts Jarrett Stidham. But the Patriots quarterback still needs wide receivers or tight ends as weapons to improve their play.
You know, I say just trust Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time. I just say trust what he's doing. He's been running that organization for such a long time, and he's been doing the same thing. Every time we expect the Patriots to do something, they do the exact opposite. They drafted a kicker before quarterback because they lost Gostkowski. Like, you know, it's just Bill Belichick. You saw his draft room with his little dog. Like that's not the demeanor of a guy who's crazy anxiety attacks or like too worried about what's gonna go on. That's the demeanor of a calm guy who knows what he's doing. Unlike Bill O'Brien, who we saw was fuming, yelling at his little own computer screen like it can hear him, right? But no, seriously. The Patriots, they have a tougher division now. You know, Miami Dolphins just got Matt Breida from the 49ers. So they have a really good offense. The Bills is still there, and the Jets, no one cares about the Jets.
The Jets are good next year.
So, you know, I just say trust Bill Belichick. I think he trusted him, but if it doesn't work out, they can always draft next year. There might be a guy named Trevor Lawrence available next year. And also,
Or Justin Fields.
let's not forget. I think Geoffrey made a good point. I think he trusts N'Keal Harry. Harry was injured for most of the year, so I think he trusts in what he sees in him. Julian Edelman, you say he's old. He's still consistent. He's still productive. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, tank for Trevor might be the new thing going on next year. But I don't see the Patriots tanking at all. I think they're a team that'll play hard regardless of their talent, and they will definitely give the teams they play close games with subpar players, lower talent, better coaching. I think the Patriots are a strong team regardless because of what you said, Bill Belichick. And also, I read some breaking news the other day that Julian Edelman and Bill Belichick have been traded to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is really true. But, I mean, it was just pretty funny to see all these memes of Bill Belichick and, like,
Yeah, he was.
I think this upcoming year has a lot to do with the legacies of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Everyone says Tom Brady is good only because of Belichick. People say Belichick's only successful because he had Tom Brady. But now they get to prove it. Brady doesn't have Belichick anymore to carry him, and Belichick doesn't have Brady anymore. So this is a time when they can prove that they're both great without each other. Bill Belichick, I think just off of coaching alone, Patriots can probably get like 8 wins. I mean, just off of coaching alone.
Mm-hmm.
They've been playing with
Tomlin.
They've been playing with Walmart employees this whole past season. So.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess this will be the end of our episode. Just as a disclaimer, we aren't actually at the locations we claim to be at. We're still practicing social distancing, and we're not breaking any stay-at-home orders for sure. So
I'm still in my house, so.
Yeah, Geoffrey wasn't claiming to break anything anyways. This is Man-to-Man Coverage signing off.